Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I-Man here from the Block Runner, MetaZone, Rovi, and MScribe, and today we're going to be talking about a little bit about Bitmap.
Just Bitmap, right? There's nothing else obvious.
Nothing else to talk about except Bitmap.
Okay. All right. Nothing has changed at all in this scenario?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I just have like this thing on my face, but it's not a big deal.
No big deal. All right. So at some point, I guess we'll talk about what's on your face. But let's start with Bitmap. This is a weekly Bitmap Takeover.
Yeah.
Right?
So on screen, I have multiple screens, by the way.
You do?
There's like several of them.
Yeah, I'm stuck in like this super boring dimension, which, I can only imagine the things you're seeing right now.
Well, what you guys should be seeing is we have 33,224 owners on Bitmap.
Wait, hold on. There it is.
Yeah.
There, 33,224 owners. So this is Bitmap.community's display, as we saw last week. This
Correct.
is like our new home base for, surface level analysis on what's happening.
Yeah.
In the Bitmap ecosystem for good reason. I mean, they've done an excellent job of aggregating all this information to a single platform. But,
we're going to be talking about talking to Bitmap community pretty soon, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's scheduled. So that should come out this weekend, I think.
Is that this week?
Correct. Yeah, it is this week.
Oh, it is. Okay, yeah.
So this weekend, you should expect the Bitmap.community founder
Correct.
to come on and discuss this platform and all future, expansionary visions as far as what's ahead for this ecosystem. So looking forward to that.
Yeah. So we're looking at floor price $250. I think all-time high was around 300.
300 and change, I would say.
Okay.
So it was definitely like flirting, like retesting that all-time high.
Yeah.
And then, a little bit of a pullback again. So this is fine. We're finding that, that market equilibrium as assets do in the digital economy.
Yeah.
So nothing out of the ordinary, right?
I'm just happy to see the owner count go up. I mean,
yeah,
that's to me, that's the most important metric.
Correct. I couldn't agree more. But there's other things happening.
Yep.
Bitmap has kind of like evolved over time to kind of become like a Cambrian explosion of sorts, right? Anything that is like actual true value, usually the resulting events that follow it are an explosion of new innovation, right?
Right.
So
right.
BRC 420s definitely fits within that classification. We've been covering those assets that have been proliferating for months now since Jeff came on this podcast.
Right.
And here we go. We got Ords Games, dude. They're integrating.
Yeah. So they're supporting BRC 420s, and looks like if you see there on the image, and you probably can't see it, but
now I see it. Thanks, dude.
There are.
Thanks for bringing me along.
There are these blue ones, dude.
I don't remember those things that were I think they're minted for I want to say pennies. They were very cheap.
Yeah.
Right. And they minted out in minutes. But here, that was a couple of weeks ago. And people were wondering why. What are these wands for? And that's kind of the cool factor about non-fungibles in general and just creating digital assets is the idea of the big dream of Web3 interoperability, metaverse interoperability has been something like this, right? Where I'm a developer, I could just pull that asset into my ecosystem and it is now part of my experience, right?
Right.
That's literally what's happening.
So do you remember if these wands were 2D assets or 3D assets? Do you remember?
I want to say 3D.
They're 3D?
Shit. I mean.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I mean.
Well, because what I was going to say was let's assume they were 3D, just to kind of paint the picture. Developers like Ords Games, since they have a 2D game, they have to reconvert this 3D asset into 2D, basically redraw it. So, just because you support BRC 420 and you have a 2D realm versus a 3D realm and you're supporting, all kinds of stuff, you have to make sure it fits within your environment.
Can you see?
So that's a 3D asset.
Wow, you can see that, huh?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
All right, that's a 3D asset, dude. Very
so this paints the perfect picture here. So let me kind of go back to the image. So a developer has to take this BRC 420, redraw it in their kind of environment, right? In this case, it's 2D, kind of low poly or low pixel. And so it's not just because you support BRC 420, all of a sudden it just shows up in your games. That's
Correct.
not how it works.
No. No, it's just that BRC 420 asset comes with logic, right? Pre-written instructions, what it is this content is.
Yeah.
right? It's this one. They might have like a specific attribute set, like damage,
Yeah.
fucking mana. That means like nothing really, like in the context of an inscription,
Right.
until a developer comes and like puts that into and gives it like a real tangible purpose, right?
Right.
That's the whole point, right? That's what these types of content standards enable that. So
Yeah.
we anticipated this. Of course, we needed more developers to kind of like show up and demonstrate that, right? So it's happening. Ords Games, of course, we know it's next up here, inscribed.space and Foxiverse are also adopting this content standard. They're going to integrate it into their ecosystems, and according to this announcement, they're fucking
they're merging
themselves
right.
with the partnership, right?
Yeah, so it says, thrilled to announce our partnership with Foxy and to bring you cross-metaverse avatars.
Yeah, this is another thing, right? So inscribed.space, they put out another kind of like a framework.
Yeah.
This is how you create these avatars that are very like Bitcoin friendly, I guess. Like, as far as like the rendering of the stylization of avatar.
Yeah.
It's native to their virtual environment stack, and it can be deployed other places so long as it's supported. So
yeah,
that's what we're seeing here now.
Yeah, what's interesting here is like, let me kind of zoom into the image again. So Foxiverse has a high resolution sort of environment.
Correct.
And inscribed.space is a sort of a lower resolution. Low poly.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to do the same thing. They have to rebuild the avatar. So I'm curious as to how they accomplish that, like at an inscription level, if at all. Maybe they take the inscriptions like, okay, I recognize that this is like a high poly asset, but when I load this in my game, it looks like this. It looks like a low poly.
Yeah.
So another rejigging, if you will, of developers kind of like making stuff fit.
But this is what's cool though, and this is like part of the thesis. Like whenever we kept addressing the questions of like why Bitmap matters, like how's this going to change anything?
Yeah.
It's creating this like open standard foundational layer where like now anybody can kind of deploy their virtual environment stacks on top of.
Right.
It's going to increase the probability that we find some sort of like interoperability, cross communication, like infrastructure around that, right? I mean, so this is kind of like, because there's a lot of incentive to that. Yeah, we're building our verse Yeah. They're all different. They're all unique. They probably have their own native digital economies and such.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still the underlying fabric of all of that is still the bitmap system, right? So it's like there's incentive to kind of like bridge everything with each other, right? Because we're all playing in the same ecosystem at the end of the day.
That's right.
So that's good. We're seeing a thesis come to life before our eyes.
Yeah. So another one here. So in just 2 weeks, our incredible community crafted 95 amazing avatars, a feat that once took nearly half a year for 95 inscribed spaces. Kudos to the creative community here.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at some of these items here.
Are you also scrolling on your
yes,
image?
I am.
How are you doing that?
So kind of like.
Oh, okay. I didn't even notice, dude.
Yeah.
You're fucking stumped.
Yeah, I'm like a ninja over here, dude.
I thought you were doing it with your eyeballs somehow. It's like controlling your. So yeah, we'll address the elephant in the room here.
What elephant? What are you talking?
There is no elephant.
Yeah.
There is no.
This
is no
the
spoon,
future,
Will.
dude. You're in the past. I'm like way ahead of you right now.
Okay. So let's look at some of these avatars.
Yeah. So looks like these low poly avatars. I guess as an artist, you can sort of edit the. I guess the image on top of the GLB here.
Yeah.
The texture, if you will.
Correct. Yeah. So this is very reminiscent of Decentraland, right? Whenever Decentraland, if you don't know, they came up with their own like wearable framework. Yeah. Right. If you're going to design a wearable, it has to fit within these like parameters and such because, to make it compatible with our environment and stuff.
Yeah.
And then then they open sourced it, and then it became like an open gate environment anybody can create.
Yeah.
I think you just had to pay like a small DAO fee or something like that to kind of like just get through that. But man, it resulted in, a Cambrian explosion, right?
Yeah.
A ton of uniqueness and originality.
Yeah, that's what you want. That's what you expect when you come up with a standard and you create an environment where people want to be in. And so you're going to manifest creators.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to Magic Eden.
Bitmap.community, dude. So we already started off with them, but last time we did this Bitmap Takeover was before they actually did their Genesis parcel distribution event, the first LDE on Bitmap. But yeah, now here we are 1 week later. It worked
Yeah.
flawlessly. It was seamless, and the market is already valuing these assets like much higher than what they were distributed for.
Yeah, correct. So there's 378 owners, 70 listed, and the total supply is 500. So I think this Bitmap has like 3,000 and change.
I feel like more. It was a.
Or was it six? I think it was like 6,000.
It was a. It was a beast of a bitmap for sure.
Yeah.
It was literally like every single thing was like a small pixel.
Yeah, that's
on the
right.
map.
There was like one kind of like relatively
Yeah.
large square, and then everything else was like tiny.
Yeah, that big square is what, like the Coinbase reward?
Yeah.
And the rest of them were like, I think there was like a spam attack. That's the story behind that,
Yeah,
that
that's right.
specific bitmap.
That's right.
So it's good. The LDE went, it worked. It's doing well. Kudos to Bitmap.community. We're going to get his like reaction to that pretty soon.
So we're talking about a parcel at around $1,200 or 16?
0.04. That's like 1,500
Yeah.
per parcel.
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
For
I
a
think those were
parcel.
distributed for like $400 roughly. So I mean that's good. We're talking about another proof of concept here.
Yeah.
It's like people who didn't understand like why parcel your bitmap. I think this is a good demonstration of the why,
Yeah.
right? And this is just scratching the surface, really.
Yeah.
Because now it's like, okay, now how do we add more value on top of this, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
All right, moving on to another tweet here by Batoshi. So Batoshi chimes in and he says, tapping in, I have a new protocol concept. I'm not as smart enough to create it fully without spending 6 months in hibernation, but if I tell you all the name publicly, maybe this can be my runes and our community can figure out the gruesome details. The concept is called DMT 420.
So we've been talking about BRC 420 a lot and DMT a lot. So interesting marriage here of different philosophies, I guess, or different what's the word I'm looking for here?
Synergy?
There you go. Perfect. It's quite the synergy here, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it says, what do you think? It just makes sense and gives these non-arbitrary tokens a deeper purpose. Hopefully it can serve as a uniting force in the players in this game.
So you chimed in here on the tweets. It was like, we heard you, Chief. We're already on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Pretty much.
exactly. So great minds think alike, already working on it. Yeah, and really what DMT 420 is, it's not very complex. It's a NFT that is non-arbitrary.
Pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. It's like it's really that simple.
Yeah, we realize like I guess this is like Batoshi's like Casey moment where I think he sees the value in non-arbitrary assets and commodities and such. But
as he should, because Bitmap is a non-arbitrary token.
Correct, but I guess he doesn't feel like the magic of it until there's like a non-fungible application of it. So kind of like how Casey was like, you know what, like ordinals was more like a non-fungible protocol.
Right.
It's more like for the art appreciators out there, you guys who are like soiling it with all your text inscriptions and such.
Right.
As his reaction to that is like, let me deploy something that's not ordinals, so you guys can do all that over there, aka runes, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like Batoshi, I guess, has a similar sentiment. It's like, yeah, the fungible non-arbitrary stuff is cool, but what's really gonna make this cool is the non-fungible non-arbitrary tokens, and we agree.
Yeah, NFNATs.
NFNATs, I think we've talked about them in the Twitter space, so people definitely want, an extension, I guess, or an all.
Yeah, but here's the interesting part about an NFNAT is that you can craft an art piece that has an expansionary supply.
Yeah.
So that art piece might occur again in the next block.
Correct.
And so you would have to generate sort of like a generative art piece based off of block data, as an example, right? You don't have to do all that.
Yeah, the scope of application for non-fungible, non-arbitrary tokens is going to be mirrored to the scope of just regular arbitrary non-fungible assets. There's going to be so many different applications of it, whether it's art.
But here's the thing, dude. I don't know if this is clear but think about this. You have these NFNATs that have an expansionary supply. Think of every single NFT project other than Bitmap. Bitmap's the one that does expand.
Yeah.
That has like a non-arbitrary expansion rate. So now your community can actually get bigger. I mean, we just talked about Bitmap having 33,000 holders. Yeah. When it minted out, when it blocked out, it had 14,000, dude.
Correct. Yeah, this is going to be what factors into what we always thought of, like, these are going to be helpful new tools for real ecosystem creators, right?
Yeah.
Meaning like, okay, I could design a game okay, yeah, those blue wands, they have an arbitrary fixed supply. I think it's like 40,000 or something.
Yeah.
Arbitrary. And the people who are like participating in like the ownership aspect of that asset class, it's like, I came into it with the knowledge like this is a fixed amount of this is all that can exist. So if you as a developer, you for whatever reason you feel like you're gonna alter that economic, expectation, it's gonna have potentially like catastrophic ramifications to your whole game economy.
Right.
You can't really do that. You can, but you run those high risks. So it makes a lot of sense from an ecosystem creator's design perspective. Let's like pre-assign these already well-known like economic levers by like, this is a fixed, not fixed, but a predictable emission rate based on like block pattern introduction or whatever. I picked this specific non-arbitrary token by design because I want this wand in my ecosystem to like expand within my game ecosystem
100%.
to a predetermined rate, right? And you guys all know this before you onboard.
Yes.
If you don't agree with it, you go to the next game with a different design consideration, et cetera, et cetera. Right?
Here's why I love it, because this wand, it could be like a very rare wand, but because you selected a very rare element, right? But you never know. In the next 10 minutes, that pattern may occur again, and all of a sudden that wand is available for somebody to mine or earn or whatever in that game.
Yeah.
And so it adds this expansionary supply. It gives the ability for new players to come in and enjoy the potentially rare wand that could occur again at some random point in the future.
Yeah.
And it hosts this ability to like create a mania off of this.
I totally agree.
This aspect.
Yeah, and it introduces like a whole slew of like interesting, again, like game design, like newness, right? Like if I'm building an MMO, like think back to like, well, you didn't play World of Warcraft, where it's like there's like this dungeon with this specific dragon or whatever. It drops a specific item. Imagine in World of Warcraft, because all those weapons and those item drops, they're completely arbitrary, just infinite. You just keep killing that dragon. There's always a chance you're gonna get that. But imagine a non-arbitrary MMO environment where it's like, okay, there's only 1,000 of these. We kill the dragon like a bunch of times. Okay, all 1,000 have been claimed.
Right.
So it's like, all right, the ecosystem is gonna like move beyond that dungeon. It's like, you know what? There's no point in us even killing this thing anymore.
Yeah.
Because the desirable asset is no longer like extractable, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But in the future, it's like, oh, here comes this block. Oh shit.
It's there again.
Let's
go kill it.
Let's go back to the dragon and fuck it up to try and get our
Dude,
our
that's
cool
so great. And it's not arbitrary.
Exactly. That is cool. Like that adds like a whole new wrinkle of like coolness to games, right?
Yeah.
Like, that hasn't been done before.
Dude.
And it like makes MMOs like truly like forever existing, right? Like now you don't have to like relaunch vanilla.
Dude,
wow.
Dude,
20 years into the future.
Yeah. These arbitrary expansion downloadable content packs.
Yeah.
Right? It's just you're diluting the ecosystem.
Yeah. Like it makes vanilla content like always relevant.
Yeah.
Right? That's pretty cool. I like it. Anyways.
Speaking of cool, iMac chimes in with a tweet here. Like, this is interesting. It says, this is an interesting depiction of a pattern proliferation over time. In this case, the occurrence of the numeric sequence 666 within the bits field.
Okay.
Which can now be collectively observed due to a framework of element inscription registration. This opens up the possibility of incorporating a difficulty variable and a non-arbitrary token mint extraction mechanism that is dependent on time chain distance.
Yes.
So let's take a look at this image here.
That's just a long way of saying like we could basically tap into the earth of bitmaps.
Yeah.
Like that from like there's like a visible depth now. Right.
Yeah. So you're looking at different years in a stack, right? It starts at the bottom of 2009 and goes all the way to 2023.
Yeah.
And those bars that you see there in this like white image is a representation of where that pattern exists within that year.
Mm.
And so you could devise a way as a game developer to say, hey, I'm going to leverage this element, this pattern. I'm going to say the patterns that occur in 2009 are much more harder to get and are much more valuable in my ecosystem than the pattern existing in 2023.
Yeah, it is interesting. Yeah, it introduces like a whole slew of more like game design like verticals, right? Where now you're playing with like arbitrary variables like difficulty potentially. Maybe you could figure out a way how to make like a non-arbitrary difficulty variable. But this one's dependent on non-arbitrary aspects, like the time chain distance. That's non-arbitrary, right?
Yeah.
That is well logged within the Bitcoin data set, like the time distance between blocks.
Right.
Right. You can factor that into some sort of like difficulty algorithm as like this minor, like that's what this image looks like. Look at that like central funnel all the way through every single year of this like sedimentary layer that is basically Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Or Bitmap, really, because that's the actual virtual representation of like all of Bitcoin's data.
Right.
So it's like we've tapped through every single layer, and then we're kind of like we're finding where are the actual commodities within like each sedimentary layer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the oil at?
Yeah, exactly.
Where's the gold at? Where's the lithium? The whatever the fucking
digital commodities.
Exactly. So this is cool. This is the first time we've seen somebody actually like visualize like this concept, right? And now it's like us game developers are like, damn, we could make a cool little asset here that actually has this logic pre-built into it, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so I really like that tweet from, who is it, Brian? Yeah.
Brian, shout out Brian.
All right.
DMT Skull, I mean, that's an actual non-arbitrary token, so you can go to mscribe if you want to mint that one. It's up there.
All right, so we got, oh yeah, so we need to plug this. This is huge. So Batoshi, the creator of .plot, he was like, you know what, DMT NAT is cool. It's so cool. I'm going to build dmtnat.org.
I'm so glad he came to that conclusion, dude.
Yeah.
Because
you and I have like conversations, you know, now thermodynamics, in some cases biology, which is
Oh man,
it's kind of right?
Okay.
But we could
I guess your life is eh? Life is meh. No big deal. Okay.
Right, but nonetheless, we can have these conversations and we can have them on this forum where it allows us to like collect this information, put our thoughts out there in a way that people can interact with those thoughts.
Yeah, to me, this is a big fucking deal. Again, we talked about this on the Twitter space a couple weeks ago, where it's like, dude, we're like all over the place trying to keep track of like what the community is like talking about.
Yeah,
we're in Trax Discord, we're in our own Discord, which we have a couple of.
Yeah,
we're in like the NAT Foundation's Discord.
Yep.
You know, we're all over on different Twitter places. We're like in the Chinese community. It's like, what the fuck? This is too much. Like,
it's overwhelming for sure.
Right. So like we're hoping one day there's like this nice little like consolidation of knowledge.
Yeah.
And this I think is potentially going to be that. So we definitely encourage everybody. This is a beautiful site so far. I mean, it reminds me of Bitcoin Talk.
Dude, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is where I think here's like our kind of strategies. We're gonna talk about our ideas here, and then once we formulate something that, you know, it's relevant in the context of the conversation, we'll make a video and we talk about it. So
I think we want to have these weekly DMT updates, just like we have a Bitmap update every week and an Ordinals update every week. So our content is definitely consolidating, right? You know, we want to know what's happening throughout the entire Bitcoin landscape, but this is our focus, right?
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is sort of like an interesting space for entertainment opportunity.
That too. This is like a whole new like avenue of unexplored territory. Like in the context of all of Web3, non-arbitrary like asset manifestation has never been done before. So this whole experiment is like figuring out where are the value verticals going to like blossom from within. Just like, you know, when Ethereum was introduced, like, okay, this is cool. There's like a new token generation standard.
Right.
It's called ERC20 and ERC721. Like, what's actually going to be built?
Yeah.
Where's the value going to come from?
Yeah.
Well, that took a few years to figure out. But as a result, we have like a multi-trillion-dollar, you know,
an ecosystem,
arbitrary digital asset economy.
Yeah. Let's see how that plays out for the non-arbitrary space, right? You know?
Yeah. So you can either follow along, pure entertainment value, or I don't know, maybe you think this is actually the next big opportunity in the space.
Yeah.
We're right there with you guys, and we're going to be keeping an eyeball on like all of it, you know?
Yeah.
That's like our mission moving forward.
All right. Well, I guess we should talk about this thing on my face.
What is that thing on your face?
So I literally received the Vision Pro just like a few hours ago, like 2 hours ago or something like that. So we opened it. We all tried it.
Yeah.
And like right now, it's definitely a little bit darker in this room. And it could be because of the way that I set it up. But it does feel a little bit darker, but I can see you just fine.
We've been talking for like 20, 30 minutes here now. So like, is a disc like dislocating from your spine right now?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay. I was curious.
I don't feel any more fatigued. I do start feeling a little bit of pressure on my face, but it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess you need some more time because you literally just got it. I think you said you wanted to spend like a week with it.
I think so. Because I want to see if I can leverage it for like actual production of content, right? Like of some sort, like just work stuff.
Yeah, you want to see if you become super will or not, basically.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Is this worth the tumor in 20 years?
For sure.
I mean, I only tried it for like an hour, and I already came to that conclusion. Just tumor me up, dude.
Yeah. Load it up.
I'm cool with this like being our like future interface device with like the new computational experience for human beings. Yeah. I mean, this isn't like it yet.
No, it's definitely not. But
this is like the thing that broke through like that like apprehensive point for me personally.
It's definitely a glimpse into the future because there is a lot of utility to having these apps kind of like floating wherever you need them.
Yeah, it's fucking sick.
Yeah. And like whatever is being rendered, like right now I'm looking at what you guys are looking at, except in the headset, and it's like crystal clear, and it's pretty giant. It's as big as the room, right? This Safari display here.
Yeah. I mean, we've been having this conversation. I don't feel super weird or nothing. I see your like digital eyeballs. Yeah. They're a little creepy.
I wonder if you guys can see it.
Cannot see them on the screen.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, what do you think, TJ? You tried it for like 20 minutes.
I thought it was very interesting. Very cool.
Very interesting. Very cool. Yeah, I mean...
Can you see yourself like working on this headset, though?
For my everyday stuff? I mean, yeah, definitely. I definitely see this changing like workplace environments.
Yeah, I think down the line, it's going to become like in 5 years. What was my prediction? 5 years, we're all going to have some sort of like... like an air version of this, which is like 50% lighter, 50% like less girth. It's going to be super comfortable. It'll probably be 50% of the price too, like within 5 years.
Yeah, I totally agree. But do you think, is this better? Is having a headset better than kind of looking down on your phone?
To me, it was.
It is better, right?
It's better than like having to do like the intuitiveness of like the actual eyeball tracking and like the finger gestures.
Okay, but I'm talking about like from the outside perspective, like it's kind of looked down upon when you're kind of with people and then you're like your head down on a cell phone, right?
That's true.
It kind of looks bad, right? Yeah. So you talking to me, does that? I mean, is it the same thing? Do you get the same response that I'm talking to you, but maybe I'm like reading something else?
Well, if see, that's
or watching
gonna be
something else.
See, right now I can see through the filter of your goggles, so I see that you're actually looking at me.
Okay, then.
But if there's
this, dude, I'm on the moon right now.
I can't see your eyeballs no more, dude. Now you're an asshole. Fuck you, dude. It's like I thought we were talking.
Yeah, right. No.
So I was gonna say that, like, if somehow like they could predict your eyeballs, maybe like the retina expansion or whatever is like. You're looking at me,
right?
But like, it recognizes your intent, and it's like, then it like blacks out like that.
Yeah.
Then that's gonna be really rude. It's like I know you're not actually paying attention to me, you douchebag.
Yeah.
They'll probably do something like that too. So it's like, it displays actual focus and intent, like for the human connection, right?
Yeah, and the resolution is extremely high. So I'm really excited to get into like an actual virtual environment where I can interact with stuff.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, to me, this is confirmation of a lot of things, and not just me. It's been buzzing all over like the internets, the webs.
Yeah, there's people caught with this thing on driving their Cybertruck.
Yeah, I don't know if I advocate for that yet.
Yeah,
it's a little like premature, but people are nuts. That's a certainty.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is confirmation. It broke through that immersion barrier. Like now I get it.
Yeah.
Like it convinced my brain enough to like. Yeah, I can get like really present in this like virtual space.
Yeah.
like completely. Like I was there, I had my 6 windows up. I was like a Twitter fiend, like I've never been before.
Yeah.
I was like the most powerful fucking Twitter user or X user. And I was like sitting in the middle of like Yosemite Park, and like I felt like I was actually there. Like I was like, I felt like crisp air, even though I was still like, you know.
Yeah, and it has sound effects too, like you're actually there.
Yeah, and remember this is V1 really, so it's like
this is the worst version of it.
Correct. So the fact that V1 already like broke that mental barrier, that's a very positive outlook for like the whole spatial computing sector, which is very relevancy to Bitmap.
Yeah.
Considering like this is all at some point this technology is gonna integrate into everything that's like, you know, permeating as of today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So far, like the experience is great. Like, if you guys ever get to experience one of these, you're gonna have a positive experience.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Your financial advisor might not agree.
Yeah, definitely not. Is it worth $3,500? I don't know yet. I think if I think
you need another week.
If you can afford it, then I think it's pretty cool. But
yeah, I guess
you don't need it.
We'll chime in next week with another like 1 week in like update. Is it worth $3,500? Yes or no? You'll tell us, Will.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's it for us. If we miss anything, let us know in the comment section below. And also give us your thoughts on the Apple Vision Pro. Right? All right, appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you in the next video.
Peace.